Okay, today is the second lesson on data binding. And what we're going to do today is be able to change from the web page data that's stored somewhere, as opposed to what we did the day before where we had data stored somewhere that would show up on the web page. So we're going to have like a two-way street now. Now before I get into that, what I want to do is a bit of a review extension of some of the concepts we learned the day before, and we're going to look at how you filter data. So I'm going to use the database that's in this thing, this folder called Data Driven Web Pages. Okay, and we're going to go into the folder called Access Database and MacTub Database. And I'm going to drag this right into the app data. It's kind of the quick and easy way to get a database in there that you've already made maybe an access outside of this program. Okay, that's the first step. Now, we keep using this example about this rock band, and what I want to do right now is do a little radio button list. Alright, I'm going to drag it here and have all the members of the bands, and when I click on a particular band member's name, it's going to have like a little journal of what they write. Okay, so in this database is a sort of a list of all this information about them. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to edit. And we're going to add the band members, right? So we're going to press add, and we're going to type in each band member. Now, as we type in each band member, the second part, which is the value, I don't want it to be the actual person's name. It's going to be a number, because in the database they are ordered by a number. So Daniel is number 1, and you have to actually know the database to do this. Okay, I've typed in the remaining people, so you've got Daniel, Davis, Kevin, Reginald, and Thaddeus, and I'm going to press OK. And you get this thing called a list, radio button list, and it's different than a radio button in the sense that if you remember how we did radio buttons, as you make each one you'd have to have gone into the properties and give them all the same group. This one is kind of cool. It does both of those all at the same time, so all of these are related. You can only press one and then it unpresses the other one, and those are the only choices. Now I notice here I've got an extra one, so if I go back into edit items, if there's this extra one here, we can remove it so it looks a little nicer. Okay, now in this database we're going to have to connect it, obviously, so we'll slide down here and we'll drag the Access Database source. Okay, and we will press configure, and we'll make the computer point to this band database. Okay, and then what we'll do is, this is the new part here, we're going to make this so that it filters the data depending on what you pressed. Okay, so there's a bunch of tables in this database, right? So we're going to pick the one that says Artist Journal, and we're going to grab everything about them. Okay, but here's where it gets different. Usually we just press next, 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 and we're done. But today we're going to press over here, and then later on we're going to press even this one. But for now, let's press this one that says the word where. And what we're going to do is let's see what the choices are. We're going to base our selections and how they activate something else by the ID number. Remember, I gave everybody an ID number. Alright, and if you knew the database, you would know that they have an ID number. Alright, and we're going to connect that to a control which I have on my form, right? And that control is a radio button. There's only one choice, so you can't go wrong here. So we're basically telling the computer, when I press down this radio button, there's going to be some words that when you press on them are going to send a number to your information, and that will connect to this thing called an ID list. Now, as you're doing this, you're making this thing called an SQL statement, but you don't have to really know that stuff. You just press add, and there is the SQL expression that the computer is going to use behind your back. Okay, so a lot of stuff that's kind of complicated, this program saves you from that. Then you press OK, and then you press next, and you can test the query, and by testing it you have to type in a number. Like, so I press in number 2, that should be the second person, and there's his journal comments about maybe when they're on the tour for this band. Okay, and then we're basically finished this part. We press finish. Okay, and we're ready to go. So now we've made the connection, we've got our little control here, and the last part is like, how do you want to show this off? So we could use a grid view, I guess a list view. There's a bunch of different things. It's up to you. Why don't we use a grid view? Alright, I think we used that before. We'll just drag this right here, let it go, and you can always say, you know, what you're connected to. So we'll press that. Okay, and let's do a little preview. We could, obviously fix up the look of the form to make it look a little bit nicer, but let's just see what we come up with. Okay, so there's our people. If I press this, let's see what happens. Uh-oh, nothing's showing up. Uh-oh, nothing's showing up. So what you got to remember is that other thing I taught you, probably the first or second day we did this kind of stuff. There's not a problem there. What about this one? Oh, see that thing right there? Enable postback. Let's see if that's the mystery error. All right, so here we are again. Aha. So now as you press each thing, different results show up. Okay, and this is kind of a cool thing. This is called filtering, and it's a neat way to show people how this thing works. Okay, and each person obviously changes what you're showing. Okay, now we're on to the second idea, and the most important. It's the main part of today's lesson. We're going to do some data binding again, but it's going to be a two-way street. So we're going to have stuff change right from our screen, and then it's going to go into the database. So for this one, I'm going to go back to a database we made before, and you might have it on your hard drive, you might not. I've got it in this folder called Other, and I'm going to drag it over into the app data. Again, the cool way to just do it in 2 seconds. Now I just want to show you this for a second. Okay, and double click on it, and this will load up the database, and we'll look at the table. That's the most important one. Inside is a customer table, and we'll open the table definition, because there's one thing on here that I'm going to take off. Customer since. I remember when we had customer ID, first name, last name, credit limit. I don't like this. We're going to get rid of it. So you right click and you delete that column, and then we'll just press save again. Okay, and now we're basically ready to use this. So what's going to happen now is we're going to connect to that database, and we're going to use a different view this time. We've never used it before. It's called a form view, and what it's going to allow us to do is have this two-way street where we can add new records if we want, we can delete them, we can change them, we can do all kinds of neat things. Okay, so I don't know if I've ever done it this way. We can just quickly drag this right on the screen right away and work like that, or you can do that connection stuff I showed you. So let me do it this way for the first time. So first of all, we're not going to use one of these, grid views, details view. We're going to look for one called the form view. So I got to make sure I find it, form view. There it is right there. And we're going to drag it right in that div folder. And usually we do it in 2 steps, but you can do it like this, straight like this. So choose data source. Don't have one. We're going to press new. Okay, haven't seen this screen before? Not a problem. What you do from this screen now is you say what kind of database you're going to load in. Well, it's not an Access database this time. It's a pure SQL Server database. You can just see them writing CQL down there, and then you press OK. All right, then there it is, customers, beautiful. Okay, then we press next. Don't touch any of this stuff, not really important for us. Okay, now what we're going to do here is we're going to grab everything, customer ID, first name, last name, credit, so that's good. Now here's where it gets different again, like the last example I showed you. We're going to work over here, and for the first time we're going to press this right here, which is called the advanced. And what we're going to do is tell the computer this time, on this form, which is called a form view, we're going to be able to add new things. That's called insert, update them, maybe change some of the stuff in a particular record, and get rid of stuff. And we're also going to say this, optimistic concurrency. So the thing we're trying to get rid of has to be in the master list. Alright, so it checks for that, and it makes sure that 2 people aren't trying to get rid of something at the same time. So it's kind of like, make sure you're on that record and you're going to delete it and nobody else, or just to make sure it's safeguarded. Then you press OK. Alright, so that's the big change. Alright, so you go into the advanced settings in the data binding, and then you generate those statements, you generate the optimistic concurrency. Now this stuff only works when you have a key field, and we do. Alright, so you always got to make sure that when you make this database, whether it's in Access or in this program, SQL, that it has a key field. I think we're ready. Press next. You can test the query if you want. All right, and in a second you'll see some information. Okay, those are a couple people I typed in before, and then we press finish. Okay, so this one, it was kind of neat for 2 reasons. I don't think we've ever done it this way. We've always done it 2 steps. You drag in the data source and then you do the second step. So you can do it all from here. Now, you can enable paging, which I will. You can make it look pretty, which I will. Okay, you can pick whatever you like. And then we press OK. Stretch this out a little bit, make it look a little better. Alright, and there's other features you can do after. We'll do a save all, and then we'll give it a run, see what happens. Okay, so there we are. There's our customers. Got 4 of them there. Okay, now if this was like a business, at one end I could have my secretaries typing in new data, and anytime I went back to this website you would see new people. Okay, or what I could do is from here add new people, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to press new. I'm going to type in Frank Jones, and he's going to get a $4,000 credit limit, and I'm going to press insert. Hey, there's 5 now. There's Frank Jones. He's added. But that's not the real proof. Let's see if he is actually in the raw database. So I'm going to stop this for a sec. Okay, and I'm going to go, and sometimes you got to do a refresh, but we'll see. Maybe we got lucky and it got in there right away. Here's the customer table. Let's show the table data. Takes a few seconds. Hopefully it refreshes. There he is, Frank Jones, and he is in now the raw database. Now we're in here. Why don't we throw something in here, right from here? So let's put Mary Smith. Okay, and I'm going to give her a $3,000 credit limit. All right, and I'm going to press save. Okay, now I go back to my website, for instance. Okay, so we've got both ends going now, and let's see what happens. Oh, there's 6 now. There's Mary Smith. Okay, and this is what happens with a real database when you go and you buy stuff or you do things online, and it changes the database that's on this thing called a web server or database server. And this is really the cool aspect now, what we call dynamic web pages. And what we're doing is using ASP.NET to make dynamic web pages. The other most popular method is PHP, okay? And the major difference is that ASP.NET is owned by Microsoft and it costs a bit of money, okay? So when you have websites that use that, you have to pay for the server and it's a bit more expensive. PHP is it's sort of an open source, and those servers are a bit cheaper. So if you were doing business for somebody using those, it'd be a little bit cheaper because they're using kind of a free service. But that's the basic idea, and this is now we've hit the sweet spot of this topic. This is what it's all about, that kind of thing.